Not yet.
Hello. Welcome to the Small Print Podcast with Elise and Dawn. Today we are going to podcast Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Graudin. If you have not heard of this book or do not plan to read it, I suggest and hope that this podcast changes your mind because this book is fantastic.
Yes. It is very fantastic.
Ever this
podcast is we go through our dislikes and our likes. We give it a rating, and then we will do a quick thought of a different book we think you should read. And then we will talk about the next book we're going to do, and then we'll go into a spoiler edition right after if you want to stay on and listen to the spoiler edition. So let's start with a quick overview of the book. Want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me find my blog here.
Well, hang. I'll just jump into it.
Okay.
This book is pretty straightforward. It basically answers the question, what would have happened if Hitler had not committed suicide, and what if he had won the war? So the year is 1956. Hitler's been in power for 10 years, so his government is established. It's called the New Order. And basically all of these plans that he had planned before his death have come to pass. He's starting to invade Eastern Europe and start his settlements. And every year, to celebrate the ending of the war and their victory, he hosts what's called the Axis Tour. And this is where the best of the best from the Japanese Empire and his New Order compete on a motorcycle race across their empire, across their two empires. And the winner gets to attend this ball and shake his hand. So the story follows a Jewish girl named Yael, who has escaped from a death camp with one goal. She is going to win the race and kill Hitler. She's survived a very painful human experiment when she was in the concentration camps. So she has this incredibly special talent, if you want to call it that. So she's able to skin shift. So if she looks at someone and kind of memorizes their physical appearance, she has the ability to become that person in physical representation. So she uses that to enter this race as a former winner. Her name is Adele Wolf. So she impersonates Adele Wolf, enters the race, and has to basically take down this man and accomplish her mission. So it is extremely intense, very fast-paced, and very impeccably researched.
Okay, so that's the quick overview of Wolf by Wolf, and we're going to go into our dislikes of the book. Okay. I will start off by saying I had none. So
I had one dislike, and this is not it didn't in any way detract from the book for me necessarily, but there is a character. Actually, you know what? I don't think I can say that in this spoiler edition.
Yeah.
Or spoiler-free edition. Okay, so my dislike is a huge spoiler, so we're going to wait until the end of our podcast when we go into the spoiler edition. So I just felt that one of the secondary characters was not developed enough for what happens to them in the novel. So I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise, everything was very well thought out. The characters were very well researched and hammered out, and that's always my biggest pet peeve, like when I feel like a character has not been given the dues it needs to be given. So we'll wait for the spoiler edition, but other than that, I had no other complaints.
So you can pretty much tell where this is going.
Yeah.
If we don't have any complaints or not very many.
Yeah.
Okay. So likes. I guess I'll start.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you mentioned that you're going to do this on your blog, which is rouletteruler.wordpress.com.
Roulette
Reader. My bad.
It's okay. It's Monday. Give us a break.
Roulette Reader at wordpress.com. And there's a trend now for World War II historical fiction books.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read 2 so far. I know there's another one that's coming out. I have not read that one.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing that this is a trend, I think that sometimes this trend can be a little bit repetitive. People kind of focus on the Hitler aspect of World War II and not much else. And even though Ryan does this as well, she kind of goes a different way with it. Especially for the kids who and adult readers who don't like historical fiction, which I am one of them. I think this is a great recommendation to give to a non-historical fiction reader because of the paranormal aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. I was very surprised that you, on your own volition, picked this book up and read it because I have been trying to get her to read certain historical fiction novels. She's like, no, not even going to bother.
I hate
I'm like, I don't understand.
So bad.
And I'm the exact opposite. I absolutely love history, historical fiction. It's always been my favorite genre. So this book took me forever to read because I kept having to stop and research a person's name or a certain event or a day in that time because there was just so much information that I wanted to glean from this novel. And I thought that was very cool that she kind of, the author, plants this interest in that time period and everything that was going on so well. So I had to stop to research concentration camps and his Lebensraum settlements and all of these things because it really helped open up the gravity of what Yael was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I loved that.
So yeah, I like the way she told her World War II fiction and how she did it in what ifs as opposed to
a mere
reimagining. Yeah. And I think it opens up the conversation for teens in particular because, I think life is a big what if, especially history. So, what if Hitler hadn't committed suicide? Our world could be different. What if we hadn't won the war? Would we be America? Would we be British citizens? Would we be having that awesome accent? We don't know. What if Lincoln hadn't freed the slaves? Or what if there was no slavery at all? Where would I be? I don't know. So, I think this opens, like I said, a really good conversation for teens to have about the world around them.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself those questions because I personally believe that looking back into the past helps you make wiser decisions and choices for the future. I know that kind of sounds cliche, but teens don't really understand that. Some of them do, but I think their lives are so in the now that they don't understand how everything that's happening in the world around them in their own country. And this book really makes you curious. What would have happened if this one thing would have gone differently? And there are, like Dawn said, there are things in our own history that we can really mull over and think about what would have happened had that gone differently. So, yeah.
What else did you like about the book?
I really liked Yael's character. I felt like she, I don't even know how to describe. She really had a lot that was going against her. I mean, she could have shrunken up into herself from all of the trauma and horrible things that she had to experience as a child, but she did not. She had this drive both to discover who she is and to change things. She had this obsession with changing things because of this woman that she met in the concentration camps who kind of spoke that over her. And I thought that was very cool. She really grabbed onto that and allowed that to become her hope. And I think that was the only thing that helped her survive because she had everything done to her in these experiments. And you hear about that happening, it happened and no one's talking about it. No one wants to talk about what they did to these people in the concentration camps. And it's awful. And the author goes there and kind of throws you in this crazy world of Yael's and how she comes out so much stronger. And I thought it was so cool how in the race she keeps getting these little paper cranes hidden behind her pillow or somewhere on her bed. And I know that the paper crane is a symbol for hope, peace, and perseverance. And so I thought that was such a beautiful metaphor for Yael's journey, both through the book and finding herself and completing her mission that meant so much not only to herself and her people and these wolves that she had constantly reminding her to push forward, but the world. Because I loved that she was not selfish. She wasn't completely focused on herself. She was doing this for everyone. everyone's death meant something to her. And I thought that was so great. Like, she has her own battle, but at the same time, she was not self-absorbed or, waffling or any of these things that are just ridiculous.
So. I also liked EIL. I think one of the most heartbreaking parts of the book is because she changed herself to blonde and blue-eyed at what age? Was she like 6 or 7?
When she was 7.
Mm-hmm. So this girl does not know what she really looks like. Yeah. That is so sad to not know what she looks like because she's changed herself so much.
And that scene when she woke up in the middle of the night to her mom crying, and then her mom like freaks out when she looks at her, and somehow in her sleep she changed into someone else, and her mom like could not handle it and basically just succumbed to that fear and horror. That was so heartbreaking. I would like almost was crying.
Yeah. So I think in Graudin's own way, she kind of talks about identity, and that's another thing that teens do struggle with is, who am I? Of course, this is very extreme, but she still really doesn't know who she is. I also like Yale because she had this internal struggle the entire time. She's like, she wants to fight for the cause, but at the same time, she doesn't want to kill innocent people. She wants to, like you said, fight for them. And she, of course, hates blonde blue eyes because that's the symbol of evil, but then she meets these Hitler youth, and they also have this struggle. You're talking about Adele and her struggle with, even though she's blonde and blue eyes, she's also oppressed as being a woman.
Yep.
And so she comes into contact with these people, and then she has to decide, I can't hate everybody because of what they look like. I don't know their circumstance. And once again, that's something that a lot of teens can come away with, is everyone's different. You can't hate a whole race of people or a whole whatever of people. And I just thought that y'all was very, what's what I'm looking for?
I know.
Relatable.
Like, yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Very relatable. And she's strong. And
she is.
And she kicks butt. And
for sure.
All that great stuff.
Indeed.
Anything else? This is Graudin's second book. She wrote Walled City, and she's basically a historian. I feel like this woman does a lot
of research.
She takes at least evident. 2 years in between her books, and she does a lot of research.
Good for her. What I loved about this book too is that it felt so genuine. Like, each location that they go to in the book, I felt like I was there. And they don't even spend an exorbitant amount of time in places like Hanoi and New Delhi, and but she finds these little ways to kind of bring forth that culture that they're in, which is cool because, you would think that these people writing in this race would kind of have a broader understanding of the world because they've seen so much of it, but their ideology stunts their ability to accept other cultures and ways of life. But you see Yael doing that as she's traveling throughout the country. Like, I loved the scene in India where she comes upon the Holi festival. I think it's Holi or Holi. I don't know how to pronounce that. Where they're throwing the colors up in the air, and she absolutely made that scene come alive. I really loved that. You felt like you were in each place, and in Hanoi with the rice fields and the raft in the river, and I don't know. I just loved all of that kind of extra cultural stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Another good thing about this book is that it's not told from start to finish. She starts off as an adult, and then she goes back, so we can kind of see what happened to her. And I think a lot of time historical fiction gets bogged down with all the facts and the characters, and it can get kind of boring, but I like the way it basically was a thriller.
Yeah.
She has these tattoos, but you don't know why and what they mean until you learn her story and who they're for.
Right.
And her whole mission, you learn about what it's for until you get to the end, and all these other characters and their purpose. And so, I like that she didn't tell it.
Yeah, she didn't bog the plot down with facts, although it was very informational at the same time. Like, she did such a good job of weaving it into the natural flow of the plot that all I can do is clap.
I just read a book where it is historical fiction, speculative kind of, and the speculative part of it was time travel. And I did not think the author did a good job of the facts. And then I read this, and it's just like, why couldn't they all be this great? So, yeah. Any other things?
Not in this edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have our own little rating system. 1 is ham, which means hot ass mess. 2 is what in the fresh hell is this. 3 is meh, it's okay, whatever. 4 is I like it a lot. And 5 is it's a little video that we play.
It's a clip from Dwight Schrute.
So our rating for Wolf by Ryan Graudin is...
Yes! 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 Yes!
I wish you could see the video.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
So basically, that's a 5. That's a huge 5 stars.
Huge 5.
Yeah.
And I hope that this book doesn't get buried by the Six of Crows and the
Winter
that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Not that those aren't great books, because
I
love Six of Crows, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure I'm going to love Winter.
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of a sleeper. It's a little brown. It's not a big publishing. It's not as big as HarperCollins. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hope that it gets the due justice it deserves. As far as, sorry, we're at work, and
We
so the phone rings.
always, every single week,
I'm not
we get
answering it.
we get an interruption.
Okay, so next, what's the next one? November 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to be podcasting Hotel Ruby by Suzanne Young.
Just gonna go to the...
I don't know. So I hung up on them. So, because there are not a lot of books coming out.
Yeah, we're
This
like,
last
what
2
else
months
do we
are-
read?
Our theory is that no one wants to compete with Winter by
Mhm.
Marissa Meyer, so they're like, I'm just not gonna
Yeah,
publish anything right now.
you're probably right.
So yeah, we're gonna do Hotel Ruby. And then we have another little segment called Quick Thoughts, where we will recommend a book that is already published that we think is worth checking out. And I am recommending The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. If you are a Patrick Ness fan, you kind of know that he's a little weird. His stories can be a little dark. This one is not dark as much as it is weird. It's basically talking about the people who are not the chosen one. So we all know Katniss story and Tris and Harry Potter. But what about Tina down the street? She's just chilling in the District 2. Whatever. She's just hoping and praying Katniss wins for everyone. But what's her life like?
Mhm.
So this book is about the Tinas and the Bobs, and they just want to graduate and live and see another day. But it also deals with the main character has extreme OCD, and there's some LGBTQ aspect in there as well. So these characters are really strong, round characters, and then you get this other mix of what these other kids are doing. And at first you're kind of like, I don't understand what's happening. But then when you realize what it's about, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Because I didn't like it at first. What the heck did I just read? What is this? And then I was like, oh, because I was more interested in the Chosen One story. I'm like, well, I'd rather hear about this story.
And he's obviously playing that against you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
I think we're just so trained in
Yeah.
our brain to want to read the Chosen One story that
Yeah.
you forget about Tina and Bob.
Mhm.
But they have a good story too. So it's The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. It is published now. So pick that up. And we're going to do a quick spoiler edition because this book doesn't have a lot of spoilers in it.
Yeah.
Well,
A
not
little
really.
bit, but not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Like
we're
I
gonna
said.
s-
Oh, go ahead. No. All right. Spoiler edition. Like I said, this book was pretty straightforward. So, kind of what you see is what you get. But there are some twists in the end that.
Yeah, stop listening if you haven't read the book.
Yeah.
Because we're going to spoil it for you. So
Yes.
if you've read it, okay. If not, maybe you want to stop listening right now.
And we'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam. All right. As I was mentioning earlier, I felt like one of the secondary characters was not well developed enough to kind of merit the emotional response we were supposed to have to his character in the end. So, as obviously the book is about this access to a race, and Yael, posing as Adele Wolf, is kind of she finds herself in this troubled partnership with this guy named Luca Lowe, who is another former victor he won a few years ago. And they are competing against another victor named Suda Katsuo. And he's obviously from the Imperial Japanese Empire. So the two kind of countries are racing against each other kind of to see who is the strongest. But in the end, Adele and Luca kind of form this plot to get him out of the race. And it ends in his death. He ends up dying because of what they do. And I didn't really see that coming, for one thing, and I didn't think it made sense because we just lost our viewer.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
She's probably spoiled.
Oh, well, we warned them. So anyway, that's funny. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so I didn't really understand why this person had to die, because there were other people that were put out of the race because of, foiled attempts to get them out, and they didn't die. So it was like, why did he have to die necessarily? And I don't felt like we got to know who he was as a person living in a large empire. You have Luca and Adele, who are clearly, they're kind of these Aryan ideals, but they still feel oppressed. There's still expectations. There's still rules that they have to follow. And obviously Katsuo is under the same thing. I mean, she finds him crying in the bathroom at one point because he's so, he's just feeling so bogged down by the weight of his purpose. She never goes into that. She never even brings it up again. He's not even in half of the plot. I'm hoping so. And I did not realize that this was a series until Dawn pointed it out to me literally like an hour ago. So maybe his story is not quite yet done, which I'm hoping, because, Adele, or Yael, posing as Adele, feels his death very keenly, but I could not kind of meet her there, and that's the only thing that I felt was not perfect like the rest of this book. So I'm hoping that his mission, or that his story, is not quite yet done, even though apparently he's dead. And then, do you want to talk about Luca, or should I run into that? I mean, I'll just finish that thought up really quickly. Luca ends up winning the race, and as a favor decides to ask Adele to the ball with him. So that's kind of how she's able to complete her mission, because she wasn't the winner, but she was still able to go because he asked her to go. But then in the end,
we have another viewer. I don't know if this is the viewer that left and came back, but if you're new, we're just going to tell you now, we are on the spoiler edition. So if you haven't read the book, you might not want to continue to listen, because we're about to mess it all up for you.
Yes. We'll give you some time. All right. We were discussing Luca and his exit from the book. Yeah, suddenly, Hitler comes up to her and asks her to dance with him. And as she's about to go, Luca just kind of, I'm going to go take a smoke, and leaves. And she says goodbye to him. And that's when the book basically ends, because she completes her mission. But we don't see anything else from Luca. And I was kind of, again, I did not realize this was a series, so I was disappointed by that. But now I'm not, because I understand it's a series. Anyway, full circle.
I'm looking
there.
At you like, what are you talking about?
I just, because this book is so well wrapped up that I personally feel like it could have been a standalone, and it would have been equally as successful to me. She definitely leaves on a cliffhanger, but it's not an obnoxious cliffhanger at all. It was just so
well.
I mean, you can expect it. Hitler. Well, we can't get that.
I didn't know that. I wasn't. I thought it was going to happen.
I did too. And then, I figured that somebody in this book was going to be a shapeshifter as well.
I did too, but I didn't think it was going to be.
I didn't either. I thought it was going to be Luca, to be honest with you, because again, he makes these comments that all throughout the book, he kind of makes these comments that he is not happy with the new order, and that he doesn't want what his government wants for him. So that makes sense to me that he would be part of some kind of resistance. And even her brother Felix, I thought maybe something happened to him, or not that he was a skin shifter, but that maybe he was part of the resistance, because he didn't seem to be too surprised by it, and the only reason he wanted to stop Adele from doing what she was going to do is because he wanted his family to stay intact, not because he wanted Hitler to live. So I thought maybe he was going to come back with, and I'm sure there's still a part that he's going to play for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, there's not really much to spoil in this book.
Because it's either going to happen or it's not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
But we got a little bit of both,
yeah,
which I
We did.
liked.
yeah.
It definitely was an unexpected ending, which is all I ask for.
I didn't see that coming.
I
at
did
all.
not at all.
And I'm like, okay, there's like 10 pages left. What's happening? What's happening? I'm like, if she puts this on a cliffhanger, I'm gonna be pissed. But
especially when like it's wrapping up. He's crumpling on the ground, and then she's like, "Oh, wait a minute, he's changing." I'm like, "Well, what? Whoa!" So that was really cool. That was not expected. And then it shifts back to Dr. Geyer, I think. Oh man, like he is a creepy character. I want more of him in the next book. Not because of what he's doing, but just because like that was another character whose story we really don't get fleshed out. But his experiments, basically changed the course of history. So in that sense, I'm interested in kind of how he feels about that and his response to basically this situation he's created. So
any other thoughts?
not really.
All right, that concludes Wolf by Wolf.
Read it, get it, love it. I'm holding it up like you can see me, but I mean, this book is oh my gosh, so good.
This is a book that I think will get passed over by the Prince Committee, unfortunately, because it is speculative, and a lot of times they don't pick that. But I hope that they at least consider it.
Yeah,
it's really good.
This book is definitely deserving.
Yeah, really, really good.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So join us on November 2nd.
Yes,
November 2nd, where we will podcast Hotel Ruby by Suzanne Young. And in the next couple of months, we will be doing our own lists because, as we said before, not a lot of books are coming out in November and December. So thanks for listening, and we need to sign off.
Yeah, we do.
Peace out.
No.
We can't do K-Mai because that's Epic Reads does that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
See you on the flip side.
Yep. Bam. See you on the flip side.